Let's get ready to rumble!
Tyson Fury says he has been working on power and more snap, explosive movements, power movements, because he believes he'll need a knockout in Germany. And in all truth, that's the attitude you should take with you when you're fighting away from home abroad. He said the training camp is very hard. He's doing different things himself. Rather than just living heavy weights and low repetition, he's got a conditioner in there and he's doing these special jumps and cardio. He's swimming, and he says he doesn't like swimming, but that's the only thing he doesn't enjoy doing. He's sparring with some big, tall heavyweights. There wasn't no one specifically he named, but it's just one in and one out, and he's doing 12 rounds a day. In the pro ring, he's never fought anyone particularly tall, especially for this generation where 6'4", 6'5" is the norm. Pulled out of the Houston fight for personal reasons, family-related issues. I have a feeling, watching Tyson respond to Vlad pulling out on video, someone told him, yo, you gotta calm down, because, you know, Team Fury is probably getting a little suspicious, or maybe the word is superstitious, on how they conduct themselves in case opponents pull out. They have had an extraordinary amount of pullouts, it has to be said. So I think they're putting a gagging order on Tyson, and he said he's gonna go back to putting that tape over his mouth like he did before he fought Derek Chisora the second time around, because he was incurring so much fines. But then again, you can't put a gag on your mouth when you're on Twitter. You have to put some tape around your finger or something, or take away his phones or his PC or his laptops.
Got your shot. Now give me mine.
Andy Lee says he looks forward to sparring with Chris Eubank Jr. Now, Eubank Jr. has moved into the Adam Booth camp. He said the competition can only breed success. And yeah, there'll be some interesting sparring sessions, I would say.
I told you I wasn't going away.
Amir Khan is looking to fight Manny Pacquiao. And look, man, I'm just gonna, this isn't to get at the guy at all, not at all. This is just analysis. If you're gonna fight Manny Pacquiao, you've got to take Floyd Mayweather out of your vocabulary. You can't fight somebody at the level of Pacquiao and be thinking about other opponents, because you're gonna be on the, you'll find yourself on the canvas, hurt badly. Pacquiao's not that guy. Don't worry about Floyd outpointing him relatively easily. Don't worry about that. He's still a formidable fighter, one of the best fighters in boxing in the last 20 years. So I'd like his chances better if I heard Floyd not being mentioned when he talks. He's saying if he beats Pacquiao, Floyd will come out and fight. I don't think he's retired. Why doesn't he go for 50? Just, it's mind-boggling, really, how no one close to his camp has told him, yo, this has got to stop right now. The fight's not on the table right now. He's retired. You're not retired. Pacquiao's not retired. You're scheduling a fight, trying to schedule a fight with the guy. Come on. Sure, it's time to stop. And we've seen him do this before. Let things that shouldn't distract him. And it hasn't worked out for him. What do you hear Floyd say before any opponent? You know, against Berto or anybody. Pacquiao, he says, I'm not looking ahead of this guy here. When people ask him about what's going to happen after this fight, no, I'm not looking ahead of this guy here. And you have to take notes. If you're studying Floyd so hard, you need to be studying stuff of what he does to be successful. That would only make sense. But y'all don't hear me, though.
Absolutely not.
Sam Egerton versus Frankie Gavin. We'll see Egerton put his British and Commonwealth and WBC international silver welterweight titles on the line against Gavin. The Battle of Birmingham. Egerton has made some improvements in his game. Tall, rangy, aggressive. Maybe a little too aggressive for someone of his size dimensions. Gavin looked terrible against Kelbrook, as we all knew he would, or at least we assumed he would, and he didn't let us down. This is not so much last chance saloon, but considering his accomplishments as an amateur and what was predicted for him as a pro, A loss here puts him in a bad place. Egerton has lost to the likes of Del Evans, who me and EJ saw get destroyed by Larry Ekendayo at the York Hall just this year. He's also lost to Johnny Coyle in a prize fighter tournament over 3 rounds. I'm going to go for the upset. I'm going to go for Egerton to defeat Frankie. That's what I'm going to go for. But we'll see. It's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. Roy Jones is hoping that Oval Mackenzie can eclipse the IBF cruiserweight title from Victor Ramirez in Argentina. It's a massive ask because if Oval wins, he will like to face Mackenzie in his first defense. Failing that, Jones will take on Enzo Maccarinelli, who I thought he was going to fight anyway. But he's actually determining his next opponent on the basis of what Oval does in Argentina. Oval will fancy the fight against Jones. He'll fancy that fight. He's a big puncher. It's not Jones' natural weight. Jones has won 8 on the bounce since Denis Lebedev put him away. But what does that mean? We've got to look at the level of the opposition he's been facing. Warning. David Lemieux says he's simply not just coming to fight, he's coming to win against Golovkin. He said the guns are loaded. He intends to test the chin of Golovkin as often as possible to see if it cracks. Marcus Maidana may return to the junior middleweight division and will be looking to capture a belt there and be the first Argentinian fighter to win 3 belts at 3 different weights. He's been out of the ring since last September. From what they're saying here, he's not just going to rush into it. He's going to have to be made the right offer. He is an Al Heyman fighter, and Heyman does have a few champions there. Lara, Charlo, so getting a shot there won't be a problem. I don't see Maidana having the type of skill set that can adjust to multiple weights. I know he's come from light welter to welter and did well. I don't see his athleticism improving at 154. I don't see how he beats, just on the basis of what I saw Charlo do to Bundridge, I don't see how he beats him. I don't see how he beats Lara. Canelo at 154, I don't see how he does it, but you never know. I didn't think he'd beat Broner either, did I? So Kelbrook versus Diego Chavez will be aired on Showtime Boxing International. Brian Costa, Al Bernstein, Paulie Malignaggi will be doing analysis and commentary. Brook is delighted that his fight will be shown on the US network, and he was thrilled to see his name in the top 10 of the pound for pound list in the Ring magazine. He also puts himself forward as the guy to break Floyd's 49-0 record. And he wants to put on an explosive performance and make America stand up and take notice that he is the best welterweight in the world. Chavez says, we know Brook is a tough, technical guy, but he's not a fast fighter and he is easily bothered by body punches. And he said these are his strengths. He believes Brook cannot fight going backwards, and we are going to test his punching power too. Okay, what do you mean you're going to test it? You're going to stand right in front of it? And he's brought up some international affairs, talking about the bad blood between England and Argentina from the Falklands and whatnot. And he says this will give him strength to be the guy to defeat Brook in his own country. Richard Comey is the new kid on the block from Ghana, a power puncher. 22-0, 20 KOs, and he is destructive. I did see his last fight. He returns to action on the 17th of October in Germany. He's signed with the Sauerlands, and his manager is Michael Amubediako. He has his sights set on a world title challenge, naturally. He also wants to fight Derry Matthews from the UK, Liverpool. He said if that fight was possible, he would choose Derry Matthews next as his opponent. He said Matthews had the chance to fight me for the Commonwealth title, but he avoided me. He says, I know Matthews is tough, but I want to find out how tough he really is. Like I said, look out, folks. He ain't no joke. Freddie Roach prefers Marquez for Manny Pacquiao's next fight. Man, you still want to go down that road? But Marquez has already said he has no interest in a 5th fight with Pacquiao. Freddie Roach believes that Marquez is the easiest guy for Manny. Okay. I mean, everybody else is talking about Kell Brook, Lucas Matisse, Amir Khan, and Terence Crawford. But this is the route that Freddie wants to go. Pacquiao is apparently still in rehabilitation with his right shoulder, but didn't the salt water cure it? I don't know what's happening with that shoulder, Manny. According to Mauricio Suleiman, Deontay Wilder will not be able to make another voluntary. His next fight will have to be against mandatory challenger Alexander Povetkin. The WBC will issue an order for the start of negotiations with Team Wilder. If there is no agreement reached in 30 days, the two sides will have to go to a purse bid. Obviously, this will be dependable on the outcome of Povetkin's next fight against Marius Wack. But the Bomb Squad, we say,
Bring it on if you think you can hang.
please stop people with the Errol Spence nonsense. Errol Spence is ready to take on the best of the best. Now, if the risk-reward factor doesn't suit some of the major players at 147, fair enough. I understand it. It's all good. But let's be honest about what it is, yeah? Chris Van Heerden was ranked 8th. Chris Van Heerden was the type of opponent that guys like Frankie, Gavin, Jojo Dan, and Diego Chavez, none of them have beat no opponents higher ranked than Chris Van Heerden or at the level of Chris Van Heerden. Diego Chavez has beaten no one above that level. And he's getting profile fight after profile fight, title shot here and there. So what is it I'm being told? No. Errol Spence is ready to fight anyone at 147. I don't want to hear no bullshit that he has to fight this guy and get more experience. He's ready. His trainer Derek James is saying the same thing as well. He's ready for the big names, and I agree. And he will be performing again on the 23rd of October. No opponent was announced, but I assume it will be on a PBC card. Yo, PBC is massive, bro. I don't know what you guys are talking about, man. I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking absolute nonsense. Nonsense. But he deserves his chance to mix it up with the guys at 147. Bottom line. It's a tough game, man, because I don't know who's behind Dominic Brazil. I don't know who's behind him, but I watched him and Fred Cassie again, and Fred Cassie won the fight. I thought he won it first time around when I watched it, but I watched it again and he won the fight. Just by a couple of rounds, but he won, in my opinion. But he didn't get the decision. And that's 2 on the bounce he hasn't got. Why isn't he getting the decisions? Well, he's from Louisiana, which isn't a predominant city in boxing. He's 36 years of age. He's in quite good shape, actually. And he's not aggressive in terms of the generic stereotyping of crowd-pleasing fighting. He's not aggressive, per se. He's clever. He's a clever dude. He already lost a couple of decisions before Amir Mansour knocked him over for the KO win of the year. He actually drew with Chris Arreola. It was a draw. He won that fight. He won that fight. And to me, he won this one here. And they actually gave Brazil a unanimous decision. And this is what I'm saying. Like, you know, I don't frame my channel around this concept that I have to be neutral, balanced, fair. And I don't frame it around that. I just don't. I don't actually frame my life around that. I actually see what I see. I present the facts. Debunk me, put up, or shut up. I don't have to frame my train of thought with disclaimer words. I'm fair, I'm neutral, you know. Because the bottom line is, I don't know if there's a predisposition in the human condition. He was expected to lose this fight. He was expected to lose. And he was expected to lose to Arreola. He doesn't have a big fan base who's going to scream for him. Yes, there's been a few of us on social media who said that he's won these fights. Yeah, there's a few of us. But not enough to cause any major ripples. Brazil is an undefeated dude. He's undefeated, yeah? 15-0. He's probably got backers who've invested in him. And they want to return. And the networks can probably get more mileage in terms of money from out of this guy in potential matchups. Chris Arreola is very popular amongst the boxing fraternity at least. And to the casual fan of Fred Cassie. He got a majority draw. I mean, even the fight Chris Arreola had before this, did he win that? And I'm not sure if it didn't play into the judges. I'm not going to say the judges were corrupt, but maybe they thought they were seeing something they wasn't seeing because in their mind they saw, well, Cassie's a journeyman. He can't be winning this fight, but he was winning it. And he did win it. Robbery? I don't know about robbery. But one judge had it 100 to Brazil and 90 to Cassie. How did he come up with that? He's saying that Brazil won every round. Now, Cassie's going to have to find some punching power from somewhere. And he's going to have to put people on their back. That's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to put people away. If he wants to make his mark in the game, that's what he's going to have to do. Because it's very unlikely he's going to get anything out of beating prospects who come from California, unbeaten with a decent KO streak and whatnot, who the networks and the commissions are assuming is going to win. And that's the guy who they want to win as well, because they want to build him up, to build up the profile, to showcase their boxing program. That's the truth. They know Cassie will come in to test the next prospect, and that's where they want to keep him. Do enough to test the guy, but don't get the W. Boxing is the one sport where your technical, I won't say excellence for Cassie, but your technical competence can go unrewarded, because what's the benefit in it? You don't have a fan base. You're unlikely to get a fan base, yeah? Now, I'm not from Louisiana, but I'm going to assume that the American football team that represents the city has more significance to Louisiana than boxing. Brazil is from California. I'm not even going to go through how much Cali boxes. Cali has a thriving boxing scene in comparison to Louisiana. Mexicans, Latin fighters, white, black, Mosley, De La Hoya, Oxnard Jim, Robert Garcia, Brandon, etc., and all that stuff there. We've got gyms, more fight cards, more activity than Louisiana in pro boxing. In British football, you can start from semi-pro level, Vauxhall Conference or whatnot. Work your way up to the nationwide pro league, get promoted, get into the Premiership. And it doesn't matter if Manchester United have got David Beckham or Lionel Messi or Pele or Maradona. It doesn't matter if they've got Zinedine Zidane. They've got all the top players there. If this team is winning the Champions League, they will get the majority of the sponsorship money from the TV. Not Man United, right? All the top sponsors like Coca-Cola, Nike or whoever, they will be courting them for advertisement. That's what will happen. And it doesn't matter what city this team came from. They don't have to come from London. They could come from a relatively unfashionable part of the country. They'll get what's due to them. In boxing, it doesn't follow. Boxing is relying on faces to sell it. And it has done for a long time. Why do you think Ken Norton didn't get the third decision against Ali? Now, I wasn't watching boxing then. I was too young. But I was told by the older heads that Ali got the decision because basically the golden era of the 70s was nearing its end. The heavyweight division in boxing was still way more popular than today. But the narrative was that they needed Ali to win for the sake of boxing, bro. That's why he got the decision. Ali became bigger than the sport. Yes, he did. He became bigger than the sport. When you look at the concept of the White Hope, it started as a witch hunt to take out Jack Johnson. That's what it started as. And then it actually became a selling point where, you know, when John Roxburgh took Joe Louis to Jack Blackburn, his trainer, an ex-fighter, a really good fighter himself, he said, well, what can I do with him? He's a black guy. I can't, you know they're not going to let him in certain doors. He ain't going to get no opportunities. And Roxburgh said, look, I'll handle that. And they did what they did in the end. And the rest is history, so to speak. And after Marciano retired, white heavyweights became like gold dust. Because, you know, obviously the black African American was dominating. They became like gold dust. How do you think Jerry Cooney got the same purse as Larry Holmes? Was it 9 or 10 million apiece? A challenger? That was in the 80s. And I remember reading boxing magazines, and the stories would normally come from America. I don't have any that I can quote directly, so you can say, oh, Beach, you're talking shit. Fair enough. But I remember reading where you'd hear trainers or matchmakers or promoters saying, yeah, we've got a good white kid coming up. And they'd mention white because, you know, he had some decent skills and he was white. They could sell that. And they'd blatantly come out and say it. that kind of language has been phased out. You can't really use that because of political correctness. And Tommy Morrison, when they tried to sell him, the press was trying to sell or bill him as the white hope. He rejected it, saying it was outdated, it was racist, blah, blah, and then people stopped using that. Plus, there hasn't really been much white American heavyweights worth anything since Tommy Morrison, has there? So, Golden Boy controlled the Ring magazine now. So, all of a sudden, we're being told Roman Gonzalez is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the sport. That's what we're being told. He was on HBO on a Golovkin card the other day, and I believe he's on another Golovkin card, and they're trying to say it's equal billing with David Lemieux. Hell no, it's not equal billing, because look, David Lemieux is not in the pound-for-pound ranking, but he sells way more than Roman Gonzalez. He's way more visible. Bottom line, boxing often creates situations more than they're organically being developed. And this is a perfect example. Yes, I would have Roman Gonzalez in the top 10. Yeah, I would. Number one, though, how do you sell this to me? I don't know how you sell this. I consider myself as a relative hardcore. Maybe not the most hardcore because my literacy on the lower weights isn't what it should be. So, hands up, I'll accept that. But Canelo's not in the top 10. But how is it you're going to sell me? Or like, because to me, the pound for pound should be at least a format you should be able to sell to. You should be able to sell that pound for pound to somebody who knows a little less than me, who isn't as fanatical as boxing as me. But he does like boxing, or she likes boxing. Now, this person I'm talking about, who's in between hardcore and in between casual, he knows Canelo. He saw the Kermit Cintron fight. He saw the Ryan Rhodes fight. He saw when he fought Matthew Hatton for the title. He saw the Shane Mosley fight. He saw the Cito Lopez fight. He saw the Trout fight. He saw the Kirkland fight. He saw the Lara fight. He saw the Floyd Mayweather fight. Now, he got some controversial decisions. In some of the fights, he shined. But nevertheless, most of us boxing fans can get a read on Canelo's resume. Whether you think he's the real deal or you think he is one of the best, it doesn't matter. You can actually get a read on his resume. How do I really qualify how good Roman Gonzalez's opponents were? How do I? It would logically follow he would have to be exceptional as a flyweight to displace Cotto and Canelo, who are going to make millions. Two fighters who the boxing world are actually counting down their fight, waiting in anticipation for their fight. But you're telling me this guy here, this small guy, who would struggle to probably fill out a big arena in America by himself, is the best. Miguel Cotto actually gave the best fighter in boxing in, let's say, the last 20 years, perhaps his stiffest argument ever. He gave the pound for pound best, a guy who's been pound for pound for years, bro, for years. You give him the stiffest argument. You win the middleweight title, one of the most prolific weight classes in boxing, against one of our best champions at the time, Sergio Martinez. You beat him. You've been in thrillers. You've tested yourself against Pacquiao. You're widely known as one of the best practitioners of this sport for years, since he was a light welterweight. And you're going to come and tell me now, this guy, Roman Gonzalez, is better than Miguel Cotto. That's not organically engineered. No way. On no fucking level at all. And I hate to hear people debate it because it just sounds stupid to me. It's annoying. Pacquiao, Klitschko, Ward, Kovalev. How is he better than these guys here? Hopkins, he hasn't retired. And look, I'm open to hear the argument of how he's better. I'm open to hear of the great opponents that's got him there. Apart from Juan Estrada. That's the only name that keeps coming up. Juan Estrada. And oh yeah, Yagashi. Sounds a little like affirmative action to me. Only not for minority groups. For flyweight boxers. You know? To make it look like they're doing their bit. They don't discriminate against no fighters despite their weight class. Well, it's funny how you don't show no more lower weight fights on HBO than Roman Gonzalez. How come you don't show no more other guys? There's some good guys down there. How comes? I mean, you couldn't wait to take Rigondeaux off the main broadcast. Couldn't wait to take him off there. HBO? If HBO really want to showcase the smaller weight guys, Rigo would have been flagship in the movement, right? Because, sorry guys, I know you're not going to like this, yeah? Roman has been forced onto the consciousness of the boxing hardcore or casuals. He's been basically, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a ranking, but his inclusion at number one has been forced. Rigondeaux worked his way into our discussions, winning 2 belts, smashing Donaire's orbital bone and his skill set and whatnot. The reluctance, or should I, the absolute refusal of his rival belt holders on facing him. Quigg, Frampton, Santa Cruz, Morris said he wouldn't face him. You know the story. You'll have to hear the story again and again and how it all got started way back when. That's for you old school heads. You know the story, right? Now, I'm not that literate on the lower weight, so if there are guys who Roman could have faced but they've been ducking him, stopping him from accelerating up the rankings without him having to get a push from HBO, naming them fights, naming them fighters, and I'll look into it. That's my opinion. Now, if you guys can remember on my page, I had him ranked in the top 10 from last year. Personally, I would have said he was a top 10er from last year. But the number one spot, it's hard for me to justify that, you know, because I could probably find 10 active boxers who I could make a case for, who wouldn't necessarily deserve to be above him, but I could make the case for them to be in that top 10 before him. I can't do that with Kovalev. I can't do that with Cotto, Klitschko, and they're the more established guys with the bigger names, but even guys like Crawford, Khan, Danny Garcia, they all have a case to be at least on the same level of ranking as Roman, in my opinion. David Haye was the unified cruiserweight champion. 3 belts. He went to France and knocked out a good Jean-Marc Mormec at cruiser. Yeah? He beat Giant Man over somewhere in Europe to win the heavyweight title. I never saw David Haye in no pound-for-pound rankings. Now, scoring fights is very subjective, whether you're a judge or you're just watching the fight as a spectator. Some judges have been paid off. Oh yeah, of course, some corrupt as fuck. Some have an agenda and they're going to stick with the agenda. But your connections, man, like even though the mob ain't in the game, you still got to be connected. I mean, if you don't have the connections, what do? I mean, okay, let's look at Fred Cassie. He got knocked out really bad by Mansory, dusting himself off, fought Chris Arreola and fought undefeated Brazil. What if he had got the nod on both fights? He'd be in the top 10 heavyweight rankings now, wouldn't he? And this ain't just modern day boxing. You know, I don't want you to take away from the video that this is a symptom of modern day boxing. I don't want you to take that away. You've always been able to engineer scenarios or pictures in boxing rather than them organically developing. You've always been able to do that. Manipulation, basically. And I'm going to leave it there for now. Drop your comments. Peace.